and welcome to the Wednesday Night War Preview Podcast. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture, joined by the Dadley Boyz of WhatCulture, Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, to look ahead to tonight's episodes of NXT and AEW Dynamite. But before we get into this, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts, where we not only review the Wednesday Night War between AEW and NXT, but also Raw and SmackDown, pay-per-views, we have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. But as I said, joined by Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick to look ahead to AEW Dynamite. But first, let's talk about NXT. Tonight is the go-home show ahead of both Wargames and, of course, Survivor Series. Triple H said there's going to be an open door for Invaders tonight, as you pointed out, no doubt, begging people to watch NXT rather than AEW Dynamite so they can finally beat them in the ratings. But what do you expect to go down on tonight's show, Michael Hamflett?
The announcement of the revival in the Undisputed Era is a far nicer way to promote main roster guys than Triple H's big call to arms on Raw. That, as Cedric rightly pointed out, was dripping in desperation, whereas this match announcement reeks of what you can do at Survivor Series time. You can have guys coming in. It very much the same as what they did with the OC. The invasions on NXT have actually been well paced, and it's not been just liberal amounts of guys coming rushing the ring. I sense we'll get plenty of that tonight, but you can kind of get away with it once and then never again, and this is the right show to do it. So I'm quite optimistic about it. I think the prospect of seeing some ludicrous giant WWE guys in Full Sail, I'm thinking Roman Reigns or Braun Strowman or Drew McIntyre, ruining everybody's typically brilliant Wednesday night. I think there's exactly one episode where you can get away with that, and it's this one.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about the possibilities of who can invade. My only slight issue is the show in and of itself is rather entertaining, and I feel like akin to Monday Night Raw, we may well get some great wrestling matches ruined at the end by an invasion.
Yeah, I suspect at least one of the matches booked will go for a non-finish. I really hope that isn't the case for Undisputed Era versus the Revival. I don't actually think it'll be that. I think they've looked in their customary reactive way, which is absolutely fine if this materializes as I'm seeing it in my mind's eye. They're probably thinking, look, they've got a stacked card. We could potentially steal the night with an absolutely immaculately worked tag team banger. I'm very much looking forward to that. Really, my only concern, considering I've accepted ahead of the time the mass brawl, is Mauro Ranallo is going to be absolutely unbearable. Can you imagine if it's Raw and SmackDown guys invading NXT in such a small setting that Full Sail University is? Just like there's going to be red, blue, black, and gold on every part of your screen. He's going to have a conniption fit and it's going to be unbearable. But beyond that, I'm really looking forward to it. Look, Survivor Series is what it is. I've been confused by it. I've been annoyed by it. One more night. Oh no, SmackDown. 2 more nights of bollocks.
Imagine the $1 billion show being easily forgettable like that.
I know. One more night. Two more nights of bollocks. 2 more nights of bollocks, and some great wrestling. I really can't wait for the 2 matches on NXT tonight.
Just a heads up, I'm going to ask you another question in a couple of minutes' time that's going to really boil your blood. But before we do that, who would you like to see invade NXT tonight? We've mentioned the likes of Roman Reigns. I sense that in an attempt to, as we mentioned, pop a rating, they are going to reach deep into that bag of tricks of theirs.
I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, and I think it's more necessary now than it was when I first pitched it, because at present, there's been no, babyface, heel, character dynamics within, Raw, SmackDown. Everyone's in civil war, going to war with other factions. It's a mess. I would just like to see a wrestler come out and get the reaction they're meant to get and not mild enthusiasm, mostly confusion. I want to see Baron Corbin rock up at Full Sail in full stupid gimmick with his wonderfully obnoxious body language, and then some guy can pound his dick into the dirt like Tommaso Ciampa. That's what I want to see from this. That, to me, is what this is. You've got a guy who's got a very real philosophical conflict against one of the brands. Baron Corbin, when he was in NXT, hated being in NXT. His whole character arc was, I'm better than these guys. I'm not a journeyman. I arrived to the destination as a star. He's got virtually the only believable pretext to be involved in brand warfare. I think it would be a really big storytelling error if he's not invaded tonight.
Lots of speculation on perhaps Kevin Owens shifting sides on Sunday Night Survivor Series. Would that not make if you're going to do something like that to sort of throw people off the scent, and maybe I've just been listening to too much of Vince Russo recently. With all the swerves left, right, and centre. People criticising him, not him in and of itself. God, I don't want to torture myself that much. But
swerve
to swerve that. Having Kevin Owens return to NXT would have a huge pop, but then also having him feud with the NXT guys tonight to then side with them on Sunday to throw people at the centre. Is that something that could you see being done?
Yeah, bro. Just have him put Tommaso Ciampa through a table, bro. Like, you can do this without needing to go over the top. Like, with Owens decking SmackDown guys and then giving the option to attack an NXT guy and changing his mind and us spotting that, them framing it in a certain way as they always do, where you can see clearly what's the story being told. There's such an opportunity. We're going to see that, like, if NXT closes, as I suspect it might, with the like multicolored windmill of arms, like Kevin Owens has got enough people to.
It's a rainbow, Nigel.
Taste the rainbow. Like,
they're going down like Skittles, Nigel.
Like, there's absolutely no reason for Owens to smack an NXT guy when there's so many blue shirts that he can aim for, which I think is fine. I think this is, as I say, like, this is that one night. The go-home show, if we discount SmackDown as we continue to do. But from an NXT perspective, the go-home show for this side of the rivalry, you can absolutely get away with a brawl going off the air and trying to tell little minute stories within that. I love the idea of Baron Corbin coming out and saying, I haven't missed you peasants one bit. He's a perfect guy. I thought Styles and the club were perfect for that as well. The ones that skipped it, the ones that didn't have any inbuilt respect for it in the first place. I like Bayley coming back.
Bobby Lashley could do that as well.
Lashley's perfect for that as well. There are plenty of guys that you can tell stories within. Just because the giant story makes no sense, it doesn't mean you can't have micro ones within it that work. And of all the shows where they might do that, it's NXT where they might.
Following on from last week's ladder match, which was talked about, let's just say, considering that what the stuff that Mia Yim put herself through in that entertaining encounter against Io Shirai,
and then instantly recovered from on SmackDown. Remarkable.
We've got another one tonight on the men's side of things ahead of Wargames. It's Adam Cole versus Dominik Dijakovic in a ladder match to see yet again who gets the advantage at Wargames. This could be an excellent match.
I'm really conflicted on this match because I want it to be class. And when I say class, I mean better than 4-star TV match class, because it's what we've been trained to expect now as a bare minimum. So I feel like it's going to be better. But after kind of Cedric planted the seed in my head a couple of weeks ago, I'm beginning to worry about the health of Adam Cole, considering the schedule he's kept and the schedule he's still got to come. I think this could be brilliant, but I would have absolutely no problem with the Undisputed Era doing the usual thing of botching the run-in at first, then just about making it work for his benefit. Heels have to win, because of course heels have to win, it's Wargames. But I'd like to see this one be free of the need for the bumps we had in the women's match last week. I think, assuming that Mia Yim doesn't get smashed in the face with a ladder, that big bump is still the finish, because there needs to be a major talking point from a match that might have not delivered without it. I think this one can avoid either of them taking too much abuse when Wargames is 4 days away and Adam Cole's got like even more on his plate than just that.
Yeah. Speaking of Vince Russo, a ladder match building to a Wargames match. I just don't.
With a briefcase on the top.
I just find it so pointless and reactionary, and they're burning through matches and gimmicks and stipulations. I just feel like
a coin flip.
I know.
This was once a gimmick a coin.
It's like it feels like main roster booking when NXT's really, really good. I find it just a little bit off-putting. Again, Adam Cole, I thought, right, this ladder match, Jesus Christ, pointless. Wargames, his kind of character lends itself to like just oozing all over that cage. Yeah, he's great in that context. Oozing all over that cage. He's going to make you want to see the big bump without bumping at all. That's hopefully how it goes. And now he's doing a championship match at Survivor Series. I thought he would just have an easy night off, like captain in the team and have minimal involvement. It's one of those where my moral sense of a pro wrestler shouldn't be put through all this, especially when he's already injured, is completely counterbalanced by the fact that this match should be absolutely ace.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. Finally, we don't know any members of Team NXT ahead of Survivor Series. This is the question I know is going to really wind you up, because it's going to have to go counter entirely when it comes to the Wargames teams. Having said all that, Michael Sidgwick, who needs to be on Team NXT at Survivor Series for either the men's or the women's teams?
I mean, it's an easy question to answer because I actually know who's on the NXT brand.
Yes, that's a good point.
So, yeah. But again, it's torturous because in my stupid head, in which I value logic, I'm trying to think of alignments who could theoretically want to partner with each other. And that's what it's all about. They don't have a choice. It just makes them feel like worker bees. And I want to feel like that about pro wrestling superstars. Ultimately, I'm just going to do my gimmick. It doesn't matter.
I'll give you 3 options. Okay, so it's the Wargames Babyface team, who will probably win on Saturday night to sort of insert themselves in the Survivor Series on Sunday. They've proven they can win a big battle. They're going to win again on Sunday. Blah 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 blah. You then need a captain. So it's the winner of Matt Riddle versus Finn Balor. Matt Riddle is a babyface that'd be happy to do it. Finn Balor that would be forced into it because they are all worker bees. He would resent his entire team, and you get to watch the dynamic of that. Or get rid of all of that, and Triple H hasn't got a yellow t-shirt yet. So he gets his trunks and he finds his elbow pads just in time for Sunday. And those Survivor Series matches go like 20, 30 minutes anyway, which is his average pay-per-view length time. So on this night, he drops somebody with a pedigree to leave it in the air that I can get physical for my brand. And then at Wargames, when the main roster invade Wargames, when they come to his turf, he says, oh, fine, I'll do it then. And he makes himself the hero because it's Survivor Series time.
And on the women's side of things, Io Shirai is a must for me. And then just a combination of the others, because obviously Shayna Baszler can't be captaining that.
Yeah, I was really deflated with the whole state of the women's Survivor Series match on last week's SmackDown. Just to sort of divert slightly and talk about War Games and Survivor Series, Vince McMahon has clearly fallen in love with Shayna Baszler, but this has done a lot of damage to Rhea Ripley as her next opponent.
But at what cost?
Yeah, at the absolute cost of their otherwise proper number one contender. She has looked like a dork for the first time since she was a babyface in the Mae Young Classic 2 years ago. Her character alignment is all to cock. We've all talked about the relationship with Tegan Nox and everything like that. And I just felt like they looked like also-rans in that 8-woman SmackDown match. So expect the babyface War Games team and Io Shirai with no explanation given for it. I think the War Games match is going to be class, and I support that build, but I've lost total faith in Team NXT's women's team at the Survivor Series.
Final question. We haven't got the final member of the Babyface's War Games team, if I'm thinking correctly. Swerve, Isaiah Scott?
I've got no idea. It would feel almost anticlimactic because it feels like it's a pointed way of dragging out the announcement. If it was going to be like someone who's had a bit of a push, is kind of over, why not do that immediately? It feels like they're going big. All of my promotional instincts tell me, they're saving someone big for this. That's just the way I've been conditioned.
The big name would be Kevin Owens leaving Team Raw to join Team Ciampa.
For War Games.
Himself for War Games. That's the big name. I actually do think they're going to go with Swerve, and it probably is a touch too big for Swerve, but I've said it before, I'd like to see him in front of a bigger crowd. He strikes me as a perfect...
In that match as well.
Yeah, he strikes me as a perfect pick for this match.
And like I said, when we discussed this in the office, you just show him Ricochet from last year and just go, something like that? Yeah. That'd be great, thanks. Right, let's transition over to AEW Dynamite. A small show going on tonight. A few little matches. Nick Jackson versus Ray Phoenix. The Dynamite Dozen Battle Royale. The Private Party versus Santana and Ortiz. And to kick us off, well, not to kick us off on the night, but to kick us off now previewing this, Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin. Michael Sidgwick, the floor is yours.
Obviously, it's going to be great. It's going to be terrifying. It's going to create much anxiety and drama. My only concern is that, as of yet, they haven't announced any kind of no disqualification stip. So already, I'm going to be partisan here. If I'm going to be wary of Mauro Ranallo's commentary, I'm going to be extra wary of Jim Ross going, goddamn rules don't matter anymore. You know what I mean? He's going to be
Jim
like,
Ross partisan. Yeah.
It's just like...
He's going to get across, isn't he?
Potentially this could feed into the character arc where it's been very pointed how little respect Jon Moxley has for the referees. Maybe I can headcanon play off the clear disregard for the rules he's going to have tonight as part of that storyline. I would like them reference that on commentary. I don't have much faith in Jim Ross, who's just going to bollock him for breaking the rules. But this is literally my only kind of fear ahead of this match because it's just going to be absolutely fantastic. There's going to be like Darby Allin doing ollies off that wonderful kayfabe entrance ramp onto Jon Moxley's back. Like he's going to be doing some ludicrously dangerous stuff. It's going to be a great, great, great violent match within the context of a straight stipulation.
Not for me, Jeff. I want to see Jon Moxley in his G1 form. I want to see him in his shorts. I want to see them surprise everybody and confound all these expectations. Darby Allin is a wrestler too. We saw moments of that, I think, in the triple threat match he had and then the Chris Jericho match. The spots are really innovative and really remarkable, but he can go. And Jon Moxley has proven that this year, and I want a little bit more of that. I love the idea that he's going to fight against this machine that seems to be rigged against him, working through the rankings. I think he'll win, but I'd like to see a wrestling match when people expect that fight. I think it's the perfect way to kick off this edition of AEW TakeOver. I just think if they have a huge, proper wrestling match featuring one star and a guy yet to fully get over.
Better than NXT Civil War, mate.
It's a brilliant way to sort of remind the world of like what they've got in John Moxley. They've got a total package, far more than just a guy that currently is generating headlines for the hardcore stuff.
And continuing with that, Private Party versus Sentara and Ortiz.
A cocaine banger that on a card like this is perfectly placed. Like my worries of a few weeks ago have been completely resolved by the way that the last few editions of Dynamite have been formatted, and one of these on a night is perfect. Private Party are in need of like a good high quality match, and they're in there with probably the best tag team in wrestling at the moment, certainly the most formed tag team wrestling, so they could be the ones to give them it.
Yeah, it should be an emotional high. Obviously, this match has been wrestled in tribute to their fallen brother. It's going to be, I don't know how much of a connection I think it's in Indianapolis crowd will have for the man who's mostly wrestled on the New York Indies. But yeah, it should be wrestled with enough heft and emotion to project all of that and create like the worst kind of celebratory atmosphere.
To continue on with the crazy matches, Nick Jackson versus Ray Phoenix.
If allocated 15 minutes of time, not that I'm hard and fast on, you can have an absolute classic match. Yeah, I know. Like the old Chandler Bing. I'm not of that persuasion. I think you can have a total banger in 8 minutes or even less, but there's scope for something incredibly special. And by incredibly special, I mean something that could be the best match of this nascent Wednesday Night Wars so far. Phoenix is unbelievable. He's probably the best wrestler in the world to watch right now, in my opinion. And he has the most chemistry with his opponent on the night. His opponent on the night is wrestling in a completely new context to a lot of fans. He'll be desperate to prove what he can do. It's just anything less than a minor classic is going to be a disappointment.
I totally agree. I think probably my favourite match, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something obvious and people will have a different opinion. I think my favourite match still of the Wednesday Night War era is Cole Riddle, and that was just chaotic. You know, I appreciate psychology, and there was zero in that one. And I think I could like this more for kind of the same reasons. It offers that sort of violent chaos and that non-stop pop on top of pop on top of pop. And Phoenix especially, like I've grown a little tired of the Young Bucks of late, but it's they're as good as everybody says they are. But Phoenix is an innovator on a different level, and I think he's going to bring something else like out of this.
And almost akin to what you were saying there, nice to see Nick Jackson and Ray Phoenix wrestling in a match that doesn't involve their partners.
Yeah,
we've seen a lot of the Lucha Bros and Young Bucks. As much as I've loved every match, I'd say that they've had, nice to see some singles action now.
Yeah, singles matches I think lend themselves better to these, personally, for my taste, singles matches lend themselves better to these spot fests than tags. I know generally the idea is the more bodies you've got out there, the more you can do. But I like watching two men being forced to be a little bit more creative because there's no hiding place. You've got to make your moves matter that little bit more. And certainly in Phoenix's case, there's arguments for both books, but in Phoenix's case, he's the more dynamic of the Lucha Brothers at this point, and there's more I think you want to see from him.
There's also the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal. It doesn't obviously get concluded tonight. The final two will go on to a match head-to-head, I do believe, next week. But we've debated this on a previous podcast, but just in case people haven't heard about this, who are some of your favourites to possibly get their hands on that beautiful
Diamond ring? In summary, I will be devastated if the field doesn't thin down to MJF and Orange Cassidy. I just couldn't think of a more perfect dynamic for this match because MJF is the most over heel in the company. Orange Cassidy is the most over babyface in that mid-card, and this is very much a mid-card attraction, and just the dynamic is absolute perfection. I mean, MJF could cut a promo on Orange Cassidy leading to next week's match and make it the piss funniest thing he's ever done. He will not get cheered because Orange Cassidy is just totally beloved. And if that match does come down next week to MJF versus Orange Cassidy, there's one clear, obvious winner, but no one wants that guy to win because they love Orange Cassidy so much. No one is damaged in defeat whatsoever. It's just perfect. That is the way it has to go for me. I'll be quite disappointed if it isn't, but I'm a mark, so I'll pretend otherwise.
And hopefully we'll find out what the prize for winning, aside from the beautiful Diamond Ring, of course, what the prize for winning this Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal is. Who would you like to see?
Yeah, I can't fault the idea of MJF winning it. I suppose you've got a guy, obviously right next to MJF in Wardlow, where if they just want to strap the rocket to somebody, he's as good a candidate as anybody. My one worry about this match, and us not getting a scenario like Sidgwick's described or featuring similar guys of that ilk is that by not announcing a hard and fast lineup and a set of rules to this, and this card already being so stacked, they might be looking at the tier below MJF's. MJF is right above the kind of the mid-card chasing pack and right below the proper tippy-toppy guys as we perceive them to be. And maybe outside of a Hangman Page, I worry that the lineup might be full of your Peter Avalons and your Sean Spears. It's 12 guys, Dynamite doesn't, so they could easily find 12 guys that haven't really yet had much of a look in on Dynamite. Sonny Kiss, there's plenty of names. And I just worry that because the rest of the card is stacked with a lot of the headliners and a lot of guys we've seen a lot of, this is more of a showcase for those guys, and the likes of MJF and Orange Cassidy maybe take a week off. Or do dark or something like that. I feel as though had they've already had those names announced, we might have seen a graphic or a poster for it. And sometimes they think the gimmick is a bigger seller than the names within it.
Finally, we're going to get a big announcement or a grande announcement from Le Champion, Chris Jericho. Michael Sidgwick, any ideas what this might relate to?
He said huge capital letters, which is big currency in the content industry. I'll tell you that for now. So
do we need to know?
I don't know. Surely it isn't just, we're doing the cruise that we've already announced, because it's an announcement. He could announce that he's like, I don't know, got a new T-shirt. I couldn't give a toss. As long as he's got a microphone in his hand at the moment, the announcement for me is absolutely immaterial. And if it is something that's kind of anticlimactic in that respect, it won't be that browbeaten WWE filter of, oh God, they've just bait and switched, because Chris Jericho can make anything entertaining. He can make a joke out of bait and switch and all of this. It could be anything. I don't care. There's going to be a microphone in his hand. He pops me every single week. And if he pops me as big as he did with the twerp ass line last week, I will get a tattoo of the man. That's that's how in love with Chris Jericho I am right now.
Could this be MJF joining the Inner Circle?
Nah, because I don't want him to join the Inner Circle. He's far better outside of it. I do like the idea of it being Inner Circle business. I mentioned to Sidgwick the idea earlier on that he goes a long way around building up who his next opponent's going to be, and then just says Sammy Guevara. And then for a few weeks they ride this idea that they think they can just book their own Inner Circle title matches between each other. I'd be fine. Sidgwick's right. I'd be absolutely fine with Dynamite on a boat, even though we know it's probably already going to happen.
That is already going to happen.
Jericho's the type of guy that just takes something that we might already know or already think is going to happen and make it seem bigger than it is, because in the context of his character, he's the kind of idiot that would assume this to be huge, even if we already know that. That's perfectly in keeping with him. So he's pretty much bulletproof to whatever it's going to be. And I can't wait.
A nautical themed scarf, perhaps, as he comes out to make the announcement. Either way, cannot wait yet again for both NXT and AEW Dynamite tonight. Both scratching and clawing to win the ratings war, even though they both claim they're not that bothered by it. Let us know your thoughts ahead of AEW Dynamite and NXT in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. Plus, let us know your thoughts on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. And while you're there, follow all three of us. Follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Follow Michael Sidgwick at
I'm toying with Body and Hamflett on Twitter this afternoon because I found a perfect video with which to do it. At M Sidgwick.
You can follow me at Adam Wilbourn. As I said, follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. This has been the Wednesday Night War Preview. My thanks to the Dadley Boyz. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.